The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Alrighty, so good afternoon, everyone. And I can see no one can see my screen. Click to start the screen sharing. I am trying to press that. Can you see my screen, anybody?
Not seeing it, Owen.
All right, so it looks like I'm going to have to edit the start of this as well. Let's see. I need to see my screen. Oh, waiting to view Pamela Melva's screen. You need to change presenter. There we go. Show my screen. There we go. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to our discussion here on the 4 E's of digital transformation, how to add value to your transformation efforts, or how to apply the Quadruple Aim to business transformation. And if you are not comfortable being recorded, then this is a presentation that is being recorded, and so you'll want to drop for that. All right. So today I just want to do a very quick introduction to who we are, so you know who your sponsor is presenting this information. Innovative E is who I'm here with. We deliver continuously amazing project management experiences. And as you can see by our various bits of bling and paraphernalia on the page here, we are a Microsoft partner. Triple gold, should be quadruple, but that's another story, with a couple of silver partnership competencies. And today we're going to show you a little bit of a product called Edison 365 after having a discussion about how you might want to approach a framework to use these tools to help you transform your businesses. We also have a product called Outage Hawk, which is for use with planned maintenance outages. If that is something that you do as a business. And we are in the government community cloud if you have needs there. So very quickly, who am I? My name is Owen. It's pronounced exactly the way that it's spelled, silent E, 2 syllables. And I'm a PMP for a couple of decades now at this point, and managing partner with the education space and with Innovative E. And my email address is given there with owen.callan@innovative-e.com. Excuse me. I have been a Microsoft project manager. I have used project management tools for much longer than I care to admit at this point, and have been through several different iterations of changes in technology and business that we can leverage to see how things haven't really changed with how people change business, but technology has. So one of those things is how I might be able to interact with you for a quick moment here. So I'm interested in knowing your insights in terms of digital transformation or the business of business transformation. So you can see there's instructions on this page here to text Owen Callan 0888 to 22333 if this is something you'd like to participate with. There may be charges involved with text messages if you don't have unlimited texting. But if you were to send us a message there, you can give us a little bit of input into what digital transformation means to you. And I'll give you a quick moment to see if people want to add to this. We've done this presentation before, and one of the participants described what they meant here as moving to the cloud. And so that's what this word cloud started to build out, was that moving to the cloud. So since I'm not seeing anything further on the page here, I'm going to assume that others are not adding to the text messages here. But if you do want to participate with the session today, I do have colleagues on the call who are monitoring the chat window for questions. So if you have comments or questions that you'd like to raise during the presentation, you're meant to, you can do that through the chat window there. So resource management is another thing for digital transformation. How do you manage resources in the digital world? All right, so for those of you who did send something, if it didn't come through, my apologies if you didn't see it there. Thank you for participating with that. Other thoughts on what digital transformation has meant for folks in the past. If you notice the source that's given here, This is an infographic or a bit of information from the Altimeter Group back in 2014. So why were people looking at digital transformation, good 4 or 5 years ago? Because it's not something that's brand new. It's been around for some time. The top 5 benefits you saw, that people were looking for lift in engagements. They were looking for improved customer satisfaction, higher traffic, increased lead generation and sales, and then 46% greater conversions. So those were what people were looking for digital transformation years ago. Today, we see that digital transformation has become this catch-all buzzword type of phrase that means ultimately, how do we improve communication and collaboration across our entire enterprise? So you can see, again, the words that digital transformation means different things in different industries in terms of the mission, like in terms of exactly what you do for a job or do for a living, but not in terms of outcomes of what we'd like to accomplish with all of these. One of the intriguing aspects of digital transformation that I came across as I was preparing for this webinar is changes that are coming to ports and shipping. So even boats out in the middle of the ocean. I'm reminded, first of all, that's a couple of years ago, if you were to do a search around the globe as to where were the fastest routers, they would be nexus spots out in the middle of the ocean, because they were moving the concentration of those types of action points to the financial centers, so they could cut a second off of a financial transaction. And you see those types of accelerations increasing more and more with the clouds. I mean, why go through wires and get to water when you can use the cloud and satellites and all sorts of technology that's much faster than what we saw years ago. With ports and shipping, they're leveraging big data and artificial intelligence to make sure they maximize the shipping containers that they put on cargo vessels, so that they maximize the weighted balance load and all that fun type of stuff. If they've got perishables, where do they load them on the deck? So again, technology is being embedded everywhere that we turn these days. So anyone who is on the call today, no matter what industry you are in, I am more than sure that you are thinking about digital transformation. It may be a different phrase that you use, but you are looking to somehow increase the engagement that you have with your marketplace in a more meaningful fashion with the technology of today. So here again from the Altimeter Group, excuse me, they're one of the more prolific graphic makers, but they've shared an idea here that is pretty common and consistent in terms of what are the things that work in favor and what are the things that work against your digital transformations. What are the catalysts and what are the inhibitors? So on the plus side, the things that work in your favor, you need to understand what is that journey that you're looking to take your customers on. You need to figure out what's the progression from the social aspect of it when people are doing like Facebook posts to the mobile aspect of it, where they're doing the Twitter or the GPS geolocated type of instant access to where are we in the world. I saw the testimony from the Google CEO yesterday about whether or not the phones are tracking you, and then I saw on the news this morning that phones are tracking you even when they are in airplane mode. So, again, we are constantly going to be attached to that network. So let's figure out how we can take advantage of what we offer in the marketplace and come up with a way to engage with audiences with the behavioral economics, and let's be upfront with the lead in that. And things that get in the way of that, things that will inhibit us moving to a more comprehensive, transformative experience is what we don't know. If we stick our sights on a very myopic view of what the future might be, I heard a great expression used this morning of looking at the universe through a straw. So if you've got that tunnel vision of looking at the universe through a straw, you're going to see very little of that universe. You need to understand what might be your competitive disadvantage if you do not do this, because when you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. And so ultimately, you don't want to leave yourself behind simply because you haven't made that choice to move forward. And sometimes people take time to study things for too long, and you have the analysis paralysis, which here has been captured as data paralysis. So I I see that there is a chat message. Someone had tried to put in a text message earlier with the word cloud that I had put forth, and it was 088, not the 888s that I see someone had put there. So again, we were just taking a quick look at the catalysts and inhibitors that you might see across all industries. But you really need to wonder, what are your barriers to transformation? Not just what it might potentially be in terms of your existential experience that you are familiar with, in terms of the people, the process, and the technology that you might see converging, but what might be the possibilities. You need to open yourself up to what could be the true possibilities of how you could get there. And so this is great words. This is a great message to hear. People get a little challenged sometimes with how to actually accomplish this. So let's take a look at some process that you can follow, and then we'll take a look quickly at tools that you can use to get there. So PwC, excuse me, one of the thought leaders in strategy and business, has got what they call the 4 building blocks of transformation to, number 1, create a strategic identity. That's right up their alley, because they want you to engage them as consultants so that they can help you to define that strategic identity. Then you'll want to design for trust, and then pivot, master the pivot from the sprint to the scale, and treat your legacy as an asset ultimately. Where I find people are really challenged with a process like this, because I'm more than sure anyone on this call can create a strategic identity with or without PwC. Where I find people having challenge is with that design for trust, especially if you find yourself in that quadrant of where it's the known unknowns for you, in terms of you know what the future looks like in terms of this great upheaval and disruption, but it's unknown in terms of how you might possibly engage with that. Excuse me. And so let's talk a little bit about that next. And so how do we design for trust? In short, I would share perspective. And so first, let's understand that trust is mutual vulnerability. You only trust someone when you are willing to somehow be vulnerable in some way with that person. So everyone that you are looking to design your transformative experience for is in some way or shape or form going to need to be vulnerable to you if they are going to trust you with that design. And so it's very helpful to be cognizant, or to be very thoughtful and aware of what those different viewpoints might be for that. And so we came across a practice in the healthcare field. One of the significant sectors that we partner with Microsoft on is with healthcare. And so there is a model in the healthcare world these days called the Quadruple Aim. And this is an approach to transforming healthcare in a meaningful way for the healthcare industry. Right? And so this has been around for several years. If you do a Google search on Quadruple Aim, you'll probably more than likely come up with medical papers on how they use the Quadruple Aim to accomplish certain goals. And the first goal of the Quadruple Aim is engagement. And specifically, they want to understand how to engage with patients and with customers. You may or may not be aware that several years ago, a couple of decades, there was a rather famous experience where a doctor or a physician was admitted to a hospital because I think they had cancer themselves. And the way that they were treated by the hospital staff became the topic of a book that he wrote about how to improve healthcare in hospitals. Just number one, to improve the bedside manner of staff. So how do you improve that engagement with patients and customers? Number two, how do you empower the people that are providing the care, and how do you empower the employers of those people? So how did they make healthcare better for nurses? How did they make it better for doctors? How did they make it better for janitors who maintain the hygiene in the ward there? As well as how did they improve it for hospitals and for other people who employ others in that environment? And then, excuse me, they were looking to optimize the the efficiency from the clinical side, which is outcomes, and they were looking to optimize the efficiency from the wastes. And ultimately, they felt if they could engage in those 3 points, those 3 aims, that could lead to a joint transformation of healthcare across the entire industry. So those 4 perspectives of engagement, empowerment, efficiency, and transforming the mission lend themselves to something called the 4 E's. And so if you want to transform beyond automation, if you want to get beyond the 4 E's, you want to move to understand the engagement from a revenue generating perspective and from the people who actually pay the bills. You want to take a look at how do you empower the customer-facing teams as well as the internal teams and the management side. How do you effectuate change? Again, we were looking for E's here. It's, if you want to go with other E's, efficacy is how to make things better without any waste, and efficiency is how do you reduce waste. And then ultimately, you're looking to evolve whatever it is that you do for a living. So these 4 points of engagement, empowering, effectiveness, and evolve apply to every industry that's out there. It goes well beyond just the healthcare industry. So once again, these are very nice words to share with you. How do you get there? So we've given you a model of what might be some of the perspectives that you would use for your design. Now, just very briefly, I'll share with you some tools and how you might use those tools, and then we'll come back to see if there are questions for folks. Excuse me. So the tools, Edison 365, you'll notice that there's a couple of different icons, Edison 365 Ideas, Edison 365 Business Case, Edison 365 Projects. Each of these are standalone tools. They can also work together. They all stem off of Office 365. So if you're using Office 365 to collaborate already, perhaps for email, and using the Office applications such as Excel and Word, then you can take advantage of Ideas, Business Case, and Projects. You'll notice in this graphic there's also a reference to something called Data Store. Excuse me. Data Store is an Azure SQL database that keeps track of the data associated with these applications so that we can build out extensive reporting if that is something that you're interested in. So the Edison 365 Ideas and Edison 365 Business Case only need Office 365 to work. Edison 365 Projects also needs Project Online, just to, again, share expectations that people are interested in these. Today, I'm going to talk about Edison 365 Ideas in the context of how you might use it to help you with your business transformation. Because one of the E's for transformation is not engineering, right? It's not how well your product is built. It comes from how do you deliver value to your customers? How do you make that connection on a value basis? And so that's where you can accelerate your business transformation is from a collective understanding of what is that value by crowdsourcing an understanding of the ideas to get there, what are the worthwhile ones to invest in for your business case, and then if you've identified one that is worthwhile, how do you execute it most efficiently so that you can accomplish it in a time frame that is appropriate for the budget that you're allowed. So again, these are products that can help you accelerate your business transformation. We're going to now show you very quickly Edison 365 ideas in the context of helping out healthcare industry. So the challenge that we have here with the healthcare industry, they're looking to transform that healthcare industry, and they face the challenge that there is a skepticism about the cloud technology. There's long been a fight over where do they house medical records, for instance, electronic medical records and personal health records. Legacy industries have deep analog traditions, X-ray, for instance. How do you make that part of a digital transformation? Mission stakeholders are accustomed to data access. So how do you make sure that people can get to data while at the same time respecting people's privacy, following the law with HIPAA compliancy, and all of those fun types of challenges that people are facing. So that's the broad understanding of what the mission might be. Let me jump over very quickly to, Edison 365 ideas. So if someone could just please let me know if Edison 365 Ideas homepage is showing.
It is.
All right, thank you very much. So, excuse me, this is the home landing page for Edison 365 Ideas. It is an ideation tool, and you see at the top here, it's got some summary statistics on how many challenges have been added, how many ideas have been submitted, ideas that are under review, and if any ideas have been awarded not success, but had been granted resources to go further in their exploration and perhaps execution. So one of the best things about this product, you cannot take full or cannot take, you can't appreciate fully without being in the same room as me, because I'm using my touchscreen to navigate back and forth with this. It's very, very device friendly. It is built for the mobile first, cloud first world. And you see across the top here that I can just go discover what's currently in input for different challenges and different ideas. A challenge is a broad scale type of idea. And we looked at some challenges a moment ago when we saw the framework of engage, empower, effectuate, and evolve, for instance. Like, for instance, here is an example of how to engage revenue generator users for healthcare. And so we'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. But up here at the top of the Discover page, you'll see that there's a couple of tiles that are cost reduction, increased revenue, and so on. As I generate challenges, excuse me, or add ideas, I can tag those challenges or ideas to be associated with a given category. And so it can be with more than one, or it can be with just the one, or you don't have to do any of the association if you don't like. If I just click on the increased revenue category, for instance, up here at the top, excuse me, I will now see only those challenges and ideas down below that are associated with those. That are associated with the increased revenue. And again, one of those was how do we engage revenue generator users for the healthcare industry. So let's take a closer look at that particular idea and see, or excuse me, that particular challenge, and see what some of the detail might be behind it. So how do we engage revenue generator users for health payers? We see that the challenge is more specifically about private information being shared widely with the need to constantly show a value for continued consumption and revenue generation. We need, as part of the technology, access to records and online interaction, kiosk interaction, all sorts of future ideas that have been suggested here already as potential challenges. By the way, the picture that is associated with this just happened to be a picture that we were using for another presentation, and that made sense for this particular challenge. So you can customize the images that you use to help spark the thinking. And as I scroll down to the bottom here, I see so far there are 4 ideas that people have suggested with these. Integrate the health technology with the restaurants, menus, the loyalty program to increase the number of times people are engaging with the revenue. And in the upper right corner here, you can see that I can add an idea to this challenge if I want to do that. I can edit the challenge because I'm the one with the rights to do the edit there. There is an ideas board where if I go to, oops, sorry, instead of right click, if I left click on my ideas board, I'll be able to take these ideas that have already been suggested. So here are the 4 ideas. 3 of them are new. One of them's a new idea. One of these might be something that I know I'm not going to do. So I'll just click on the idea and drag it over and close it, for instance. So that's a very easy way to manage these. And I know we will not review this. So that's a very closed-minded approach to innovation, by the way. So you shouldn't be doing things so ham-fistedly as I just did there. So that again was the excuse me, looking at the ideas board. If I were to take a look at the triage instead of the boards, then I'll have some indicators for how well these ideas map to different categories that have been set up. And these are tailorable. You can change these for other criteria if there are things that you prefer to see instead of risk and cost reduction, for instance. And here on this scale, if you notice on the right edge of this, there is a score out of 10. If I was to click and drag this cost reduction indicator up, you'll see that my score here just went up. Over here on the risk piece, if I decide that it's actually a lower risk than what I scored, then you'll see once again the score over here on the right increase, because a lower risk is a better thing. So you can have the relationships between these scores and how they're calculated out be directly proportional or inversely proportional. If you notice with the stage of the ideas that's given here, the one that I had said was closed is showing that it was reflected to be closed, and I just realized that that really was a poor hand-fisted thing to do, so I'm going to move it back to being under review. If I'd wanted to move it forward to being a project, I could have looked at it through that aspect there. And if you're interested from the administration side of this, how difficult is it to maintain this? It's a very easy dashboard type of configuration with tiles to go into it a little more deeply. All right. So that is a quick demonstration of an ideation tool and how you might be able to leverage it with a digital transformation. And there's some of the logos of people who are involved with this. In the meantime, I will open the floor up for whatever questions people might have and see if anyone has anything they'd like to know more about with what we've discussed here, either in terms of how you might apply the 4 E's or how you might use the Edison 365 Ideas tool to do it. So I'm not seeing any questions come up. So in the meantime, if there aren't any, if people are typing it or thinking through what their questions might be, I'll continue to stay on the call here for a few minutes. Otherwise, thank you very much for your attention today, and feel free to reach out if you'd like any further understanding of what we've talked about today. Thanks for coming.